Ways and Means Committee meeting will come to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott. Commissioner Baker McCormick. Commissioner Marecki. Here. Commissioner Baydoun.
Here.
Commissioner Anderson. Here. Commissioner Palomar is excused. Chairwoman Varga.
Here.
You have a quorum present.
Thank you. Next item.
Chairwoman's remarks.
I have none.
Next item is approval of the minutes of the August 15th meeting.
Move for approval.
Been moved and supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Since we all did our work, I think this is going to be quite a quick meeting today. Next item.
There is no unfinished business. Item number E1 is requesting commission approval of budget adjustment number 2019.
Consider it read.
I need to talk on number 2.
Any discussion? No. Commissioner Marecki moves, supported by Commissioner Baydoun.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Item number E2 is requesting commission approval of budget adjustment number 2019-35.
Consider it read. Mr. Abbo?
Yes, I wanted to make sure, there's some information that wasn't clear in our write-up on this. This is the monies for the Pinnacle project. And we indicate that it's certifying revenue, but it's doing more than certifying revenue, and it's traveling through some discrete component units that we do not control. So what's happening is we are certifying revenue and appropriation uses. So about $4.8 million is going from the county to the treasurer. The treasurer will then allocate it to the brownfield and the EDC. The EDC, we have the intergovernmental agreement with the EDC that they will not get any monies on this until the property is sold. They're going to get 30% of the selling price. So then it's going to go from the EDC and the brownfield back to the county, except for $117,000, which will stay with the treasurer. So my point is as it travels to the EDC and the brownfield, those are two discrete component units that we do not control. And as it goes through there, it'll come back to the county. And I believe.
Alicia, you want to chime in?
I was whispering it's the land bank, not the EDC.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The land
I
bank.
stand corrected. I've said this more than once. Felicia's got my back. Thank you, Felicia.
Commissioner Marecki.
So the treasurer is giving this money to the,
No, we will be giving the money to the treasurer so
Okay,
that we will
from
be
the brownfield
we will
authority.
be exercising our right of
Okay,
refusal.
got it, okay.
So the treasurer then has to pay the delinquent taxes, and the delinquent taxes are going to be going through the
Got it.
brownfield and the land bank.
so,
And then it'll be coming back to the county because the county is recovering the money because they were the county funded the improvements to the property, which we have not had any compensation for,
okay,
or
so
recovery for, I should say.
the analysis says something about purchasing parcels too that are located at the old racetrack. That's what I was,
I read that.
No, we're not purchasing anything. We're just, well, actually, technically, we are purchasing
Used,
it.
yeah.
Technically, we are purchasing it. We're purchasing it through our right of refusal.
Okay.
One of the 3 parcels, which was used for the Pinnacle racetrack.
but then we're going to sell that parcel,
Well, yes.
hopefully.
Well, that's on the table, I guess,
Okay.
at some future point. We are negotiating with Hillwood, I believe is Hillwood.
Prospero's.
And then the exercise date, and I'm looking at Felicia on this, is September 30th, I believe, is when we have to exercise our
So the
right.
county,
Go ahead.
okay, through the chair. So this body has already approved the right of refusal. The treasurer gave an extension to September 20th, so that action should have already taken place where the county will pay the 4.8, and then, as Mark mentioned, the treasurer would distribute that money. So that transaction has taken place. There is a COW is set for, which will potentially deal with the Pinnacle piece. I don't know the date. I think it's isn't it next week?
October?
No, the cow. Isn't there a cow sale? Or did I just lie in front of every? Okay, let me stop talking. But so
October
the Pinnacle
2nd.
is coming.
October 2nd.
Okay, because I don't know if that was announced, so maybe I shouldn't say that out loud.
I won't
So,
be.
but it's coming.
Oh,
I know.
October 1st. It's coming.
It's coming. Thank you. So that the actual deal will be coming before this body in short order.
Oh, my gosh, I was supposed to.
Okay. Okay.
So I hope that that's clear as mud now.
Yeah.
Clear as mud.
It's a big
Commissioner-
circle with the money.
Yeah, Commissioner Baydun.
So, on the Wayne County Treasurer is going to distribute this money, so they're probably going to give back some money to the taxing authorities also for the local cities that are involved in it.
No, because it was a TIF.
Oh, okay,
Tax increment financing, which is going to the brownfield, and the recovery goes back to the county because the county was the one that paid for the infrastructure on it. And it was done through the land bank. So approximately some money is retained, is going to the land bank, which is coming back to the county under the intergovernmental agreement, and the rest is coming back to the county. And this is the money that we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
So it's just the money has to just flow through to
Yeah,
show the
it comes back.
appropriate in and outs. But my point is that as it travels through the discrete component units, we do not control that. And that was actually part of the language, the budget language that we were talking about last week, where there's responsibility for discrete units, where financial accountability is taken by elected officials, which we have removed and said that it's going to be just with the county.
Okay. Thank you.
And that is exactly the reason why we did that, because we do not control those aspects.
And because he brought it up, we will be going through the rest of the budget language too, or the glossary. And
Glossary terms, right?
little by little, and we are going to start pulling out things that we may want to address, because like Kevin said, it's been since 30 years ago. They just keep repeating it, so we're going to put our footmark into that and revise it if necessary. So as we find them, we may want to deal with one or two at a time instead of doing a whole big thing. So that's something that I'll be doing with Felicia and fiscal, and we'll bring it to you as, but if you go through it and you see something, please point it out to Mr. Abel at least, so that way, or Felicia, so that way we can address those too.
Are you talking about the budget instructions?
No,
to
the
revise
glossary,
them?
the glossary of
In the-
terms.
Oh, glossary,
of terms.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good, thanks.
But it goes with the budget, so. Okay, sorry, I should have waited and said that. All righty, do I have a motion on this one? It's been moved and supported. All in favor, say aye. Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Item number E3 is requesting commission approval of budget adjustment number 2019-35-213, certifying revenue in amount of $8,000.
Consider it read. Discussion? Commissioner Anderson?
Kelly, could you give us an explanation of this? Because
Kelly, would you identify yourself for the record, please?
Kelly Rao, Budget Director, Management and Budget.
That sounds nice.
Thank you. This is certifying additional revenue for a grant, for vector surveillance grant to the Public Health Fund.
and what does it do exactly?
Do you know
Do you-
this?
do you
I
know?
believe it has something to do with mosquitoes
Oh,
and ticks.
really? Okay, all right. You have a motion already? If you don't,
Not yet.
I'll make the motion.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Yeah, please use your deep so we don't get bitten.
So you'll die.
Next item.
Item number E4 is requesting commission approval of budget adjustment number 2019-35-253.
Consider it read. $2,000 in the health fund.
Move approval.
Support.
Just a quick question.
Sure, Commissioner Anderson.
I know it's only $2,000, but the reallocating expenditures in the county health fund of $2,000, what is this exactly for? Because it says for corporation council related issues, travel. Is that related to the health care of? It's not related to the health care of the prisoners, right?
This is to cover travel expenditures for jail medical. There was a convention or a conference attended by, I believe it was the director, but I'd have to get back with you on that one.
Okay, so the former, it's Wellspring or whatever it's called, that took the place of Correct Care, that we're paying for their travel?
We have help. Identify yourself for the record. Turn your mic around.
There's a Wellspring.
Thank you.
Ernestine Williams, Assistant Finance Director for Health, Human and Veteran Services. Okay. This $2,000 is allocated money from the budget to allow Corporation Counsel to go to Washington, D.C. to do a subpoena or get some additional information on a court case.
Okay.
In a court case against the healthcare provider?
It says United Community Hospital, and the subject of the case is Felicia Morgan, depositions.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Who would have ever thought that saying a travel, huh? Okay. Any more discussion on it? It's a court case that we don't know anything about. Okay, Commissioner Scott, you want to move it?
Yes, it's moved and supported.
Thank you. Oh, it's been moved and supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Item number E5 is requesting commission approval of budget adjustment number 2019-35.
Consider it read. A little bit about this one.
This budget adjustment is moving funds into materials and supplies out of operating expenditures in the building fund for emergency service generator maintenance. I apologize.
Does it say what building?
It does not.
I would hope that it's not for the Guardian.
No, it is not the Guardian building.
Actually, that was kind of saying it, but I wish it was, so that way we know that we're going to be voting on it. Alrighty. Commissioner Anderson moves, supported by Commissioner Scott. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Item number 6 is requesting commission approval of budget adjustment number 2019-35 to 38, reallocating expenditures in the amount of $27,454 in the Drug Enforcement Fund.
Thank you.
Move for approval.
Been moved and supported. Discussion. Commissioner Morecki.
So this is for drag racing prevention?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Sumaya Harb, Director of Administration at the Sheriff's Office. Yes, it is. The narcotics unit runs on overtime. We only have one FTE, so I have officers who will volunteer on overtime. So yes, part of it is the drag racing, yes, and
Go up and
narcotics.
down Telegraph and kind of look?
I don't, yeah. It's within Wayne counties.
We actually have a Wayne County ordinance that I proposed back in 2006, and has been on the books for so long, since then. And it stemmed from someone getting killed on 4th Street in southwest Detroit. And so it's quite an extensive one, and we really do need it.
Yeah.
The last forfeiture last auction they had from forfeitures, these are really heavy muscle cars, I mean expensive vehicles. So I would hope that by the officers going out there and monitoring some of these drag racing, that if they keep it up, we'll just take their vehicles eventually, and they have to either buy it back, or it takes 3 times though being caught, so there's a lot of but some of these people, they just don't care. They drag race on the newest paved road. That's usually what they do. Newest paved road.
Okay. I'll move approval.
Thank you. Been supported?
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Tell the officer thank you. It's really a health hazard for all of us.
Yeah.
Traffic, I sure don't want them coming at me.
Will do, thank you. I'll let them know, thanks.
Next item.
Item number E7 is requesting commission approval of budget adjustment number 2019-35-195, certifying revenue in the amount of $242,631 in the county parks.
Consider it read. It's been moved
Support.
and supported. Commissioner Baker McCormick.
The funds, this is for trees, and is it for just for county parks, or would this also be for trees on Outer Drive, the maintenance?
There's nobody here available from Parks, but I can tell you that it was to recognize revenue received in 2017 and 2018 from the utility companies, Consumers Energy, DTE, and ITC.
Recognizing those funds in the Parks
That were
Fund.
received that originally had fallen to fund balance, so they are recognizing that revenue in order to use it in contractual services.
Parks usually stay with the parks, not outside the roads. The other,
Well, it says Department of Public Services,
Yeah.
so that would be in a
we have a
different
parks unit, yeah.
area
Yeah.
of funds.
The roads are coming, the trees on the road side
maybe.
comes out of the forestry division, I believe. Andy? I believe I'm correct.
Forestry isn't making roads maintenance, though, that would make sense.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, common sense.
Okay, thank you.
I'll double check. If I'm wrong, I'll tell you.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any more discussion on this? Commissioner Baidoon moves, supported by Commissioner Martha Scott.
It's moved.
Oh, it's been, oh. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
I lose track, yeah.
Next,
You did. Next item is item number 8, requesting commission approval of budget adjustment number 2019-35-204, certifying revenue in the amount of
consider it read.
Move for approval.
Support.
Been moved. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The funds here, 21,000, looks like it's for the Light Fest. Is that the total cost? I'm just wondering what,
These were
Additional funds?
additional revenues received over and above what was originally budgeted.
okay. Do you know what? I was just wondering, I guess you would know what that,
What's your
I do
question?
not.
the Light Fest, the cost of it, because these funds are additional.
I
funds
can
added.
provide that information to you
Okay.
at a later.
Okay, that would be good, thank you.
Commissioner Marecki?
We talked about this in COPS last week,
Oh.
and they're adding more this year. I want to say it was like 360,000 total.
Wow.
I'm not positive.
Revenue, right?
The cost, but then we get the revenue from people going through.
Oh, and then what would that, do you remember?
I don't remember that. That usually comes out once a year. In Ways and Means, we usually see what the parks, the revenue is and the costs are.
Okay.
But they were upping it this year. It's a really popular event, so it was a sole source contract because Bronner's is the only one that does
the license.
Right, I remember the
Yeah.
contract, but.
They want
okay.
to make it bigger and better than what it has been, so, go ahead, Commissioner Anderson.
I was just going to say, I think it's the only money-making event that the parks sponsor. It's the only one, and it actually helps pay for other activities, other concerts and things like that that the county puts on. But I think it's the only moneymaker. The others are a net cost to the county.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I want to say that we made this money last year and we're just recognizing it, but that's just me. It makes sense, right? Okay.
That would be correct.
Right.
So whatever they spent in the expenditure, once they paid all their bills, they would have made 21,000.
That was left over.
That would have been additional than over and
Additional.
above what was budgeted as expected revenues.
Whenever we budget, and if we don't budget enough and revenue comes in, we recognize it. They certify it as additional dollars that came in to that budget. So I think you can expand on that as far as how to explain it better than I did.
Well, if we appropriate something in one year and it doesn't get spent, it ends up ultimately in fund balance. So if we use it in a subsequent year, there's always an adjustment to take it out of fund balance and move it back to the appropriation line. So I mean, that's exactly what happened with the prior item. Which one am I?
The Parks 7.
The Parks, yes. Because that came from earlier years, and so that's what happens when you don't appropriate. Everything gets closed into fund balance, and then it has to be moved out of fund balance because that would be the revenue source.
So whatever the balance is left, then you have to move that out of.
It goes
okay,
into
back
fund balance because we closed the year,
appropriation.
and then we have to reappropriate it.
Okay.
Right.
Kelly?
This revenue would have been received in this current fiscal year,
Okay.
but it was over and above what was budgeted.
Okay.
But it still crosses it's going to cross 2 fiscal years.
No.
Not this time.
Not
We have
this-
our first.
All right, well, then I'm explaining the wrong thing.
Now we're not so sure, because that's what I thought, because
I thought you said it was coming out of fund balance, Kelly.
Not on this one, no.
Not on this one?
No. We are on number 8, correct, Lake Fest?
So fund balance is from the prior year,
Fund balance was always
but
from the
if
prior
it's
year.
in the same fiscal year, it's just leftover
Additional.
additional.
yeah, because the Light Fest
Okay.
would have been this year, this fiscal year, because it was not until December.
So
And
effectively on this one, Kelly, we're anticipating additional charges, fees, and fines in order to cover the additional expenditures. That
I would assume that they've already collected those additional revenues, and they're just appropriating it, including it as an additional revenue so they can cover all the salaries and
I got
fringes.
it. They didn't put it in the budget because they didn't anticipate it to be as much, but since they're having a bigger and better Light Fest this year, they're going to put that money in so they'll have it. Am I correct? No. Okay.
They received more revenue and had more expenditures in this current year.
Eric, correct me if this is for the Light Fest, what year are we talking about? Are we talking
It
about?
would have been just last year,
Last year's money.
2018, but
So-
in
so you're
the,
just doing
in
a-
current fiscal year, but
Right,
in last calendar year.
Right, so-
That's why they got the
So
money in.
basically, they're
Okay.
just reconciling their books now.
Correct.
Commissioner Anderson, you
I'll
want to?
move approval.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
Any members? Do you have anything? Kelly, you have anything upcoming that you need to talk to us about?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay. Next item?
Public comments. We
Oh.
have,
Go ahead.
we have a list of speakers.
Already, during public comments, we do not go back and forth, so our purpose is to listen to the public, and you each have 2 minutes. First one,
Diane Feely.
enlarged head up here.
Toss another. Then we'll have to take
What's that? Look.
Candy cane makes me hungry.
Oh, you're talking about. See?
She was involved in a land contract for $31,500. Without her knowledge, the landlord in Canada was not paying the taxes. It was foreclosed and sold. It was foreclosed. And then in the action before auction that the land bank organized, it was sold to Reality Transition. So here you have the case of a young African-American woman with her children who thought she was involved in a home ownership program, who certainly is deserving of the house that she believed she owned. An action before auction, which has already been suspended, if not gotten rid of, because of other problems that it has, is now coming to bite her. So my request to you is to do what you can to make sure that she, who really is the rightful owner of her home, is compensated by the land bank and by Reality, what's the name of the company? Reality Transition. So make sure that she stays in her home, because that would be doing the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Patrick Driscoll.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm resident of Detroit, retired steel worker, Steel 1299 U.S. Steel. I'm also with the Detroit Eviction Defense and concerned about the situation faced by Ms. Burrell. Diane had kind of outlined the specifics of the case, but in the larger picture, I think it's already been looked at that it didn't achieve the initial objectives of helping people that are facing these situations. Right now, we have 3,000 or so people occupied homes that are facing foreclosure, and it's an important thing to look at. Way back in 2011, this commission did a study with from the University of Michigan on the auction itself, and they pointed out that the effects of the auction were largely negative, both in rewarding bad actors among the developers, in deteriorating housing quality, and the negative effects on the on the individuals that were there. We had a city which had Detroit itself, which had in the Wayne County probably had among the largest black home ownership in the country, and but that's deteriorated as a direct result of both the crisis 2008 and the after effects of that. While this body, of course, is not the cause of that, it should be the cause of trying to ameliorate whatever conditions, deterioration that occurs throughout the county and throughout the city of Detroit. So I think while the action for auction may have been a good idea, that you've got to oversee. I mean, people who are occupying a home should have an opportunity to do it. There's been studies that made that usually the lowest rung of people are paying much more had been paying historically much more taxes in the last, since 2008, because they weren't adjusted as the law says they should be adjusted. They weren't adjusted, so they continued to pay higher taxes, or they may have been eligible for poverty exemptions, for example. And some of this stuff was taken care of in court, but a lot of it is you have to figure out how, and the numbers have come down, from the tens of thousands that during the 12, 13, or 14. So, I mean, it's an opportunity to try and find a way to keep homeowners in their homes, both in the auction and if the right of first refusal by using it, but it has to be more direct to allow the people to stay in their homes, such as Ms. Burrell, because obviously what's happened is she became a victim of which a lot of people are. Of another bad actor, the landlord who continued to take rent, even though he didn't even own the place for approximately a year, he continued to take rent on the property, and again, this was her money going toward bad. But for all these reasons, I think it should help her and the many thousands of other people that should be able to stay in their homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Joe McGuire.
We said 2 minutes, but I wanted you to finish your thought.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Joe McGuire. I'm also with Detroit Eviction Defense, and I'm a staff attorney with Michigan Legal Services. I represent Ms. Burrell. Ms. Burrell came to me in May of this year, and as Pat indicated, she had actually made her monthly payment for the month of May and every month before that without realizing that her home had gotten foreclosed on for the owner's failure to pay property taxes more than a year beforehand. She had no idea. And as this body might know, under the Action Before Auction program, properties were sold to developers for pretty reduced prices compared to what they would have fetched at the auction. And the understanding was, in exchange for that, these developers would, in certain cases, rehab the properties, and if there were eligible occupants in the properties, to offer those occupants a purchase offer or a rental offer. And it's uncontroversial that Ms. Burrell was an eligible occupant under the program. I asked the Wayne County Land Bank why wasn't she made in one of these offers, and they said to me that they sent someone out to the house in September of last year who saw someone at the property, talked to them briefly, left them a flyer with a phone number on it, got that person's phone number, didn't get their name, and that person never called them back, and so that was their chance. And because they never called back, they just considered them not an eligible occupant. They didn't even claim that they did anything besides that to determine whether or not there was an eligible occupant in the property. They, by their own story, they had a phone number that they could have called, they could have sent something by mail, they could have visited a second time. I mean, who knows who that person was. Ms. Burrell doesn't remember anyone coming to the property in September. As I said, she had no idea it was even foreclosed on. She was still paying her monthly payments. And so here we have a case where the occupant is, really unimpeachably blameless. Her payments under their agreement with the former owner were supposed to include property taxes, and very clearly eligible under this program to get one of these offers. And the story from the land bank as to why it declared her ineligible doesn't really make any sense to me. And so now, Realty Transitions, which is the name of the company, they're a company out of Taylor, Michigan. If you Google their name, the first thing that comes up is a news story about them getting raided by the FBI and the homes of their CEO being raided by the FBI in connection with a corruption investigation. That was in February of this year. So this is not the kind of company that should be benefiting from this program. But they are right now. They're trying to evict Ms. Burrell. They've already filed an eviction case that we got dismissed on a procedural problem, but they're going to come right back. And so we're trying our best to convince you guys to do what's right and to appropriate some funds to purchase the property back from Realty Transitions. We know this is possible. We've done it in the past with other cases from the Action Before Auction program that went awry like this. And so, as you know, I also heard that this program was discontinued, and that's great, honestly. It really needed to be reworked. But there's still people that are suffering as a result of this program, and we need to help them out. We can't leave them out to dry. There's no reason why Ms. Burrell shouldn't have her home. And thanks so much. I have copies. Ms. Burrell's story was covered in the Detroit Free Press in an article earlier this month. I have copies of this. If I could leave them on the table if anyone wants to pick it up.
You sure can.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Next item.
Adjournment.
So moved.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor, say aye. We're adjourned.
I don't know, I think it's going to go in too, though.
We always do.
Do you know how,
It's Elisa's constituent.
so do we know how, the appropriations part of it worked before?
No, it didn't work before. We never did that.
He just said we did before. Do you know what
He
he,
said that. He's an attorney.
but do you know what he's talking about? I'll ask him. Okay, I'm just wondering how that worked before.
That's
Thank you.
that's what he's
Said, yeah.
No, I mean, Mark is finding out.
Oh, I see.
For us
Okay, okay.
What he's talking about.